timing there. Sorry about that. Forgot to do the big finish. Hey, it's me, Danny Thompson, here with you on Countdown to Restoration, counting down the days of the illegal Biden regime and chronicling all of its evil deeds. And I do not say that lightly, because there is no good in these people, ladies and gentlemen. As we have told you over and over, they are in truth evil. And how else do you put it? And everything they do is a lie. Everything they do is to destroy this country. Okay. So, again, I know I'm being subtle and everything, but we're trying to get the word out. All right. As we go today, we're going to start with a little comparison of the man we affectionately know as the thief in chief. Oh yeah, he loves it. The thief in chief. Yes, because, oh come on, you get 2 times, then you got to go. All right, because we're going to start yesterday. We forgot to put this up. George Washington's birthday. And yet, this is something I doubt you would ever, in a way, you would never see an artist portray our current pretend president in prayer, because he wants help for his troops, help for his cause, and he's calling on God, the God in heaven. So God bless you, George Washington up in heaven. God, thank you for great leaders to start off this country. And, we're going to just do a quick comparison here. George Washington, whom he could have become king. Did you know that? They would have let him become king, and he said no. Ex-Clinton advisor Naomi Wolf, you probably don't remember her if you weren't around then, warned U.S. becoming totalitarian state before our eyes under Biden. See, everybody was saying that about Trump, but no, it's under Biden. And then going back to George Washington, we have this, which makes 0 sense, this Fox report.
All right, here we go. Cancel culture strikes again. And you know what? Donald Trump predicted this. This time at the University of Washington, where students are demanding the removal of the statue of Washington. That's George Washington saying, quote, "Statues in place at the University of Washington are preservers of our dark past. This is not a history that should be glorified and celebrated, as it perpetuates white supremacy and preserves its historical imposition. Thus, the George Washington statue, along with all other that symbolizes racist figures, should be removed from the University of Washington." Here to react is Kim.
Yes, whatever happened to the days, hey, you can go to a different university. Go to the University of Nothing. But no, we have to change everything. Our great leaders are being trashed. Why? Because it's not our dark past they want to remove. They don't care about that. No, they want to start us over again without any reference to God, any reference to Christ, any reference to Christianity being any part of this country. And we chronicle that by telling you all of the time to go here, seculardems.org, and see the guiding principles behind the Biden regime. It is full of godlessness and abortion. Transgenderism, just destroying either killing our youth or destroying the ones that survive birth, and taking God out of everything. And they do mean everything except to be used in a horrible way. Of course, the poster child for the Biden regime, Dr. Rachel Levine, who is probably more qualified to be Director of Health and Human Services than the horrible pro-abortion, abortion-loving person they are trying to put in now. But this just tells you everything you need to know about this upside-down illegal regime, that this person would be qualified to serve anywhere just based on their frame of mind. But it's all part of the dark winter. It's all part of the war against us. They think they're winning. But they're not. They're having a hard enough time just getting bills through Congress. Yes, Clarence Thomas, GOP election challenge dissent sparks calls to investigate his wife. Now, you may have heard that yesterday the Supreme Court, which is, I meant to start off with some pictures of the two cowards and a traitor. We'll do that tomorrow. Justice Kavanaugh, Justice Barrett, and Chief Embarrassment Roberts. I knew there was something I was forgetting. But anyway, because Clarence Thomas wanted to look into the voting irregularity cases, saying it wouldn't matter. He and Justice Alito and Justice Gorsuch all said it wouldn't matter on this past election, but to safeguard elections coming forward, they wanted to look. But no, they wouldn't hear it. But because he wrote such a scathing dissent, they now want to investigate his wife as part of the attack on the Capitol, and you know, anyway, on January the 6th. And so that's the way they work, ladies and gentlemen. She tweeted before everything happened at the Capitol, her support of those marching and to stop the steal. And so now they want to investigate. There are calls for her investigation as part of that day's horrible events. So that's where we stand. That's what's going on. But luckily, we weren't depending on the Supreme Court, because if you're depending on the Supreme Court in this country, you might as well be depending upon the Supreme Court in third world countries, because this Supreme Court is corrupted. But we will see a turnaround. Fauci, vaccinated people shouldn't dine indoors or go to the theater quite yet. From White Christmas, the theater, what has happened to the theater? Oh yeah, they're empty. Yeah. Oh, good old Dr. Tony. Yes, Dr. Fauci. There are things, even if you're vaccinated, that you're not going to be able to do in society. For example, indoor dining, theaters, places where people congregate. Your vaccination doesn't help like that. We're not sure why it helps then. Oh, you can go to work. But people congregate at my work. There's lots of people there. Well, that's okay, but don't do anything to enjoy yourself. We're spending billions to give people a vaccination that doesn't help. And then people say there's no plans behind all of this, huh? All right, now the White House and the regime keep telling us how many shots in the arms they're giving every day and how all of this. But see, we've told you there are supply issues. They were supposedly working on these supply issues. These supply issues are normal. They're not anybody's fault. You can't just say, oh, we want 1 million doses, and 1 million doses pop up. Now, I know there are some people sitting in colleges that believe that because they've never actually created anything. They've never made anything. They've never manufactured anything. They've never worked in... There are politicians that believe this because they've never done anything but sit in government and say, oh, if we say you can do it, you can do it. But manufacturers are having a hard time supplying. There's a big demand. And the problem with this that's understood, but they keep lying, telling us how good they're doing. Vaccine maker Pfizer's and Moderna pledge massive boost to U.S. supply after sluggish rollout. Now this isn't an article from under Trump, President Trump, the duly elected president of these here United States. No, this is now. This is what's going on now. There's not enough supply yet. And again, as I said, that is normal, but they keep lying. They keep lying. After billions of dollars and dozens of wartime declarations, why are vaccines still in short supply? Well, it's just because that's the way the real world works. All right. The U.S. government has invested billions of dollars in manufacturing, used a wartime act dozens of times to boost supplies, yet there's still not enough COVID vaccine on the way to meet demand or even the government's own goals for national immunization. President Joe Biden, in remarks at the National Institutes of Health this month, said the nation is now on track to have enough supply for 300 million Americans by the end of July. But at the current rate of production, Pfizer and Moderna will miss their targets of providing at least 100 million doses each by the end of March, let alone 200 million more doses each has promised by July. I mean, things just don't happen. Sorry, President Pretend Biden. It just doesn't work that way. But anyway, so we're just having some problems. Speaking of COVID-19, Biden, see the nice little farm shot here? Biden COVID-19 relief bill includes $1 billion to advance racial justice in farming. Yes, because the ground obviously prefers white farmers. That's right. Corn likes to be grown by white people. I guess. I don't know. But, obviously this has to do with getting funding and everything else. But that's part of the COVID-19 relief bill. I don't understand it either. That's what they do. They start throwing things in, and then they start talking about all the things that must happen, all the people that are going to lose everything if they don't pass the bill. And this bill is so messed up. Oh, well, probably not any more than any other bill, and it happens under all administrations and regimes. President Joe Biden's COVID-19 relief bill, which could cost American taxpayers as much as $2 trillion. We have spent so many trillions of dollars since this pandemic, is full of handouts for pet leftist causes. The Republican Study Committee said in a memo to House GOP members on Monday, including a $1 billion grant designed to combat historic and systemic racism in agriculture. Yeah. The memo outlines dozens of liberal goodies hidden in the bill, according to Fox News, so none of this is true, which obtained a copy. Among the provisions raising eyebrows among the conservatives are $1,400 stimulus checks going to mixed status families with undocumented immigrants. So, if you are here legally or a citizen, but if your spouse or significant or however, is an undocumented non-citizen, which, anyway, a lot of questions on that all the time, but we don't have the time to go into it. Both of you could still receive a check, and of course, that's not right. Allowing Planned Parenthood to receive Paycheck Protection Program. Funds designed to keep small businesses afloat, even though they keep getting their taxpayer-funded money. And nearly $600 million for additionally emergency paid family leave for federal employees and U.S. Postal Service workers. They get 8 weeks as it is. 8 weeks of paid family leave for emergencies or whatever. According to the RSC memo, the outlet reports. Sometimes you just want to run screaming, but you realize you just run into a wall, wouldn't you? Yep. All right, among the more controversial items, though, is the $1 billion handout to socially disadvantaged farmers, defined Fox News reports, as those farmers who are part of a group that has been discriminated against because of their race or ethnicity. Yes, the plan allows minority farmers to apply for direct relief payments equal to 120% of the outstanding indebtedness of each socially disadvantaged farmer or rancher as of January 1st, 2021, to pay off the loan directly or to socially disadvantaged farmer or rancher. So if you're in debt, they're going to pay your debt. You know, as long as you qualify, which almost all of, I'm sure they'll find a way to qualify. Now, not all of the money would flow directly to minority farmers. It never does, because they create agencies and give it to other groups. The bill does create a grant system, but also funds agricultural legal centers and other social justice organizations. Now the other part we looked at yesterday, most of the school money isn't even for this year. They keep saying they've got to have it to open schools successfully, but most of the grant money for schools will be going to schools next year. That's right. It's for their next year's operating budget. Okay. Now so there's no. Only a small percentage would go to actual pandemic-related things. A full 15%, about $300 billion, is earmarked for liberal policy priorities that have nothing to do with the pandemic, such as expanding Obamacare subsidies and increasing the minimum wage to $15 an hour 4 years from now. All right, just 1% of the package will be spent on vaccines. Around 5% will go to related healthcare, and in other words, you know, they, like I said, whenever the federal government or state government says they're going to give money, they give it through things. They give it through, or they have to create, they have to do all this, and a large part of the money just goes to get the money out. I mean, it's really, and it's been that way. It's not just them. According to a new report from the Congressional Budget Office, tying in person-to-person learning to infrastructure and safety spending could leave kids out of classrooms until 2023. 2023. Because most of the school money would go where? It would go to hiring new teachers and paying teachers retirement and stuff like this. It's not going to go to what they're saying. It's not going to do that. They know it's not going to do that. They're even saying, well, these school districts, they need to be able to budget. We saw that yesterday. But we've got to pass this. Because if we pass this, this will create, there's nothing about creating jobs in the American Rescue Plan. There's nothing that's going to help schools get reopened that already couldn't reopen. It's just spending. And the only reason your average person is going to get a $1,400 check is to help it pass. And the only reason they want the minimum wage increase is to shore up their voter base, but to pay back unions for helping the Biden regime get in, because union contracts are tied to the minimum wage. This is not about you. We've told you this isn't about students. See, a lot of teachers and teachers unions are going to get raises out of this minimum wage increase because their salaries are tied to the minimum wage. They have to be so far above it. This isn't about anything they talk about. Hardly any of it's going to pay for vaccines because they're already paid for under previous spending bills. It's a lie. It's a lie. Which makes me think of this. Yes, they're all liars. And that's all they do. And things like this just help them lie more. I mean, because if there's something, they don't think you know anything. They don't even care about you. All right, so we're going from that now to go to foreign policy for a moment. This from yesterday's news conference. And we bring it up just because you need to always know how they're dealing with China.
Diplomacy. China's foreign minister made some remarks today about wanting to rejig the relationship with the United States, and he called for tariffs to be removed. I know that this policy is under review along with lots of policies, but can you give any reaction to what he has said and any update on President Biden's feelings about tariffs and broader China policy?
Well, I think, as we said, around the time when the president had a conversation with President Xi, we believe the relationship with China is one of strong competition. We want to come to that relationship from a position of strength. That means working in close coordination with our partners and allies around the world, Europeans, other partners in the region, also with Democrats and Republicans in Congress. And it also means we want to do work at home and focus on doing work at home to make sure we are coming to that from a position of strength. As you noted, there's, of course, a review of our tariffs and the tariffs that were put in place. I don't have any update on that at this point in time.
Well, of course not, because everything is under review. There was one question in today's press conference about the postal board because people want the postmaster general replaced. And they said, we know it's under review, but this is a priority. This is a priority of the president. He has so many priorities, but we don't know when he's going to get to it, but it's a priority. It's under review. China's under review. Well, and I guess it should be. But there should be certain things they should know. Of course, they don't want to look at them as bad people, but as competitors. This is just like if you open up a shoe store here, and I say that because I sold shoes when I was a young and climbing adult, and made good money at it. Back then you could. I don't know if you can now or not. Back then I was doing well. But still doing well, but I'm saying selling shoes. So you open a shoe store and your competitor down the street opens a shoe store. Well, you might not be enemies, you might be good friends, but you go down, see what he's doing, he sees what you're doing, you kind of counteract this, you might, wait a minute, he's selling below cost, this or that. But you're not enemies, you're not going to go, bulldoze this store down. He's not going to China's not our enemy. They're our competitor. It's like Target and Walmart. We're going to let Walmart make more money and have lower prices, and we're going to make good profits but have higher prices. And we're different, but we're competitors. That's it. That's foreign policy on China so far. But what else is in our foreign policy news today? And this is coming out again, but we knew about it back when. We knew that John Kerry was meeting with Iran, and he should have been arrested over that. He should have been stopped, but nobody stopped him. Officials with ties to Biden have reportedly been meeting with Iran to undermine Trump. Yes, you see John Kerry there. Of course, our favorite photo of John Kerry is here. Yes, there he is. Hello, former Senator Kerry, now special climate envoy of the United States. That does look so similar, doesn't it? It's almost scary. How old is Kerry? I don't know. Remember the old shampoo, Kerry is so very, or is that lotion or whatever it was? Anyway, but it's not just the one report. Biden officials reported meeting with U.S. arch enemy Iran to undermine Trump. Reckless. General Jack Keane, and this is true because he did not like Trump. This man did not like Trump at all, unless I am sadly mistaken, and if I was, I wouldn't be sadly mistaken, but no, he didn't like Trump. And who was doing it? Oh yes, John Kerry and Robert Malley met with Iranian Foreign Minister Javad Zarif during the Trump administration that were orchestrated to undermine President Biden's predecessor, who is the legitimate president, President Donald J. Trump. I mean, now you remember the whole Russia thing was because Trump's people were supposedly planning things with Russians before the election. Meeting with foreign people before the election, which happens all the time. But no, they were just trying to find a way to stop him. Why? So they could, Hillary Clinton was supposed to win, and she was going to be enacting all that Biden is doing now. See, we're 4 years behind on their plan. And it's Trump's fault, but it's really your fault and my fault if you voted for him. We have time more to say on that later. What else do we have here? Oh, from foreign policy to Merrick Garland, the man who was robbed of a Supreme Court seat, and no one will ever be forgiven for that. And now, the more you listen to this man talk, the happier he should be that he's not on the Supreme Court. Although, I don't know what a difference it would make. Swap him for Roberts any day. Not for Neil Gorsuch. But anyway, of course, it wouldn't have been a swap. He would have just been put on and... Garland refuses to answer if biological males competing against women is unfair. It's a difficult question, you know. Can't just lay that out because you got all these rights, you got all these issues, you got legalities, can't just answer that. I mean, this guy, You're used to a quick mind in the Justice Department. You're not getting it this time, ladies and gentlemen. Biden AG pick Merrick Garland. Far-left rioters attacking federal courthouses, not domestic terrorism, because it's at night when courts are closed. I'm sorry. If someone could say that with a straight face, they do not need to be attorney general. They need to be doing a stand-up routine because they're not going to laugh at their own comedy. It's not terrorism attacking U.S. federal property, a courthouse which is a symbol of our justice system, as long as the courts are closed. Well, you should tell, next time you rob a store, say, it's not robbery, the store was closed. It's not burglary, no one was home. It's not terrorism. No. See, if they'd gone into the Capitol building when no one was there, when Congress had closed session, it wouldn't be terrorism, it'd just be trespassing. This is going to be the head guy of the Department of Justice. I don't know who's worse off. People that nominated him, people that are going to vote for him, or him. Garland said this yesterday. All right. Let's move along. How did he define it? President Joe Biden's nominee for U.S. Attorney General Merrick Garland said during the first day of his confirmation hearing on Monday that attacks on federal courthouses in the Pacific Northwest may not qualify as domestic terrorism because the attacks happen at night when the court is closed. Let me ask you about assaults on federal property in places other than Washington, D.C., Portland, for instance, Seattle. Senator Josh Hawley, a Republican from Missouri, said, do you regard assaults on federal courthouses or other federal property as acts of domestic extremism, domestic terrorism? Well, let's get this out of here and get the next one. Well, it seems like a pretty straightforward answer. Well, Senator, my own definition, and you have to, he and Uncle Joe move pretty slow, let's put it that way. My own definition, which is about the same as statutory definition, is the use of violence or threats of violence in attempt to disrupt democratic processes. Garland responded, so an attack on a courthouse while in operation trying to prevent judges from actually deciding cases that plainly is domestic extremism, domestic terrorism. All right. An attack simply on government property at night or any other kind of circumstances is a clear crime and a serious one and should be punished. You just gotta love these people, don't you? I mean, it's just... and should be punished. I don't know enough about the facts of the example you're talking about, but that's where I draw the line when one is, both are criminal, but one is a core attack on our democratic institution. This man doesn't know anything about any policy or anything going on in this country. They must have been keeping him in Joe Biden's basement. I mean, he keeps saying, I'm not sure about that. We do want to have a reset. We want to reorganize. I do know about racial disparity and racial injustice, but I don't know about these other things. Come on, I'm a brilliant legal mind, but I just don't know about things. But I should get your vote, and he probably will unless you start calling your Republican senators or even Democratic senators. He doesn't know anything. He does. He's doing what? He's lying. Lying. So that makes him a what? Ladies and gentlemen? Oh, come on. You're supposed to jump right in. He knows. He's had to have seen the news at some point. He knows about rioters during Black Lives Matter. That was social justice. But he doesn't know about this other. He should head up just the Department of Civil Rights, maybe. Oh, yeah, they've got a true zealot down there. All right, so where else are we going? He was asked if about immigration issues and so forth. Let's hear his scholarly answer. Oh, come on, play.
Talk a little bit more about the law enforcement challenges at the border, which I know a number of other members have brought up with you. Just a fundamental question. Do you believe that illegal entry at America's border should remain a crime?
Well, I haven't thought about that question. I just haven't thought about that question. I think the president has made clear that we are a country with the borders and with a concern about national security. I don't know of a proposal to decriminalize but still make it unlawful to enter. I just don't know the answer to that question. I haven't thought about it.
Will you continue to prosecute unlawful border crossings?
Well, this is again a question of allocation of resources. The department will prevent unlawful crossing. I don't know. I have to admit, I just don't know exactly what the conditions are and how this is done. I think if I don't know what the current program even is with respect to this. I assume that the answer would be yes, but I don't know what the.
Wouldn't you just love to be sitting in the room with the thief in chief and Merrill Garland having a conversation? You would be banging your head against the wall in no time. He doesn't know. And the president has stated, we are a country with borders. Can you be a country without borders? That was the pretend president has stated. That's what he was saying. We are a country with borders and laws. Of course, he's governing as if he doesn't know that. The legitimate president, President Donald J. Trump, he's the one that said countries have to have borders or they're not countries. But he doesn't know. Merrill Garland, again, the most brilliant legal mind of our lifetime. Now that Ruth Bader Ginsburg has gone on, the most brilliant legal mind of our lifetime ever denied a seat on the Supreme Court, doesn't know, hasn't thought about it, can't just, doesn't even know what's going on in the world, doesn't know, and maybe he's just being honest. Maybe he really just doesn't know a blooming thing except that there's racial inequality, But as we stay with immigration, U.S. Now this was not supposed to happen, ladies and gentlemen. This is an outrage because, number one, there's nobody trying to come across the border. That's what Jen has said. Nobody's down there. We don't have a border problem. No, not us. No. U.S. shelter, and certainly we're not supposed to be keeping kids in detention any longer. U.S. shelters for migrant children near maximum capacity as border crossings increase. Really? Could that be happening? That's not true. That can't be true. Well, let's find out. And how are they keeping them? Because this is important.
Why is the Biden administration reopening a temporary facility for migrant children in Texas?
Well, first, the policy of this administration, as you well know, but just for others, is not to expel unaccompanied children who arrive at the border. And the process, how it works, is that Customs and Border Control continue to transfer unaccompanied children to the HHS Office of Refugee Resettlement. That can take a couple of days. I just want to give this context because people need to understand the process. But because of COVID-19 protocols, the social distancing requirements, the capacity at existing Office of Refugee Resettlement shelters has been significantly reduced because, of course, you can't have a child in every bed. There needs to be spacing, and we abide by those spacing to protect the kids who are living in those facilities for a short period of time. And to ensure the health and safety of these kids, HHS took steps to open an emergency facility to add capacity where these children can be provided the care they need before they are safely placed with families and sponsors. So it's a temporary reopening during COVID-19. Our intention is very much to close it, but we want to ensure that we can follow COVID protocols as unaccompanied minors come into the United States.
But it's the same facility that was open for a month in the Trump administration. Summer 2019, that is when Joe Biden said, under Trump, there have been horrifying scenes at the border of kids being kept in cages. And Kamala Harris said, basically, babies in cages is a human rights abuse being committed by the United States government. So how is this any different than that?
We very much feel that way. These are facilities. Let me be clear here. One, there's a pandemic going on. I'm sure you're not suggesting that we have children right next to each other in ways that are not COVID safe, are you?
I'm suggesting that Kamala Harris said that this facility, putting people in this facility, was a human rights abuse committed by the United States government. And Joe Biden said, under Trump, there have been horrifying scenes of at the border of kids being kept in cages. Now it's not under Trump, it's under Biden.
This is not kids being kept in cages. This is kids. This is a facility that was opened that's going to follow the same standards as other HHS facilities. It is not a replication, certainly not. That is never our intention of replicating the immigration policies of the past administration, but we are in a circumstance where we are not going to expel unaccompanied minors at the border. That would be inhumane. That is not what we are going to do here as an administration. We need to find places that are safe under COVID protocols for kids to be, where they can have access to education, health and mental services, consistent with their best interests. Our goal is for them to then be transferred to families or sponsors. So this is our effort to ensure that kids are not in close proximity and that we're abiding by the health and safety standards that the government has been set out. What?
All right, so short translation, this is us, not them, and so the same is different. And besides, there's a pandemic going on, and we can't just turn these poor kids away. If we have to just hang them up in closets, that's better than turning them away. And we're not the Trump people, so obviously we don't do anything that's bad, even if it's the same thing or worse. Because that's what liberals always say. Oh, when we do it, it's not the same as when they do it. We do it with compassion. We're not like the mean people that used to do it. But, sir, I'm still hungry. I'm still cold. I'm still in a cage. Of course, that wasn't happening under Trump. They make it. Make you think you're walking in an animal shelter and there's cage and cage stacked on top of each other. But anyway, let's keep going because Jen always thinks she's through with something, and then, cause see, these reporters are supposed to be her friends. They're not supposed to treat her like she's a true press secretary. They're supposed to give her easy questions. They don't want to do that because they really want some answers. And see, the reporters think, you're our friend. You were supposed to be honest with us, but you're not always honest. And these are things we care about, and you're not doing them like you said.
Go ahead, Kate.
I can wait for your immigration.
Well, yeah, just because picking up on this discussion about the HHS facility versus Customs and Border Protection facilities. There's a law that says you're supposed to get kids out of those facilities, a CBP facility, in 3 days.
Yes.
But data we obtained said that there were at least 179 kids had spent more than 3 days in those kinds of facilities in January, despite internal policy dictating that all minors should get out within 3 days. Immigration attorneys that work with these kids, advocates, seeing all of this and saying, this isn't that much better than what was going on before. In regards to the HHS, the use of the HHS facility, they say it's a step backwards. So there's the criticism that was made by candidates Biden and Harris, and then there's the criticism concerned now of these attorneys who work with and represent these children who say, this isn't much different than what the Trump administration was doing.
Well,
say you.
let me first say that you're right, that kids, there's about a 72-hour time frame where kids should be transferred from CBP facilities to HHS-sponsored facilities, and that is certainly our objective. In terms of the specific kids that you mentioned, I would send you to DHS to give you more information on that, but that is not what we are hoping to achieve. We want these kids to be in facilities where they are getting access to health and medical assistance, to education. As you know, there are a number who have come into the country, and we're trying to manage that as well and ensure that we are able to transfer them as quickly as possible. Not just to stay in the HHS facilities either, to get them into families and sponsored homes. That is our human and moral objective from this administration. But I would send you to DHS for any more specifics on those kids. It's a fair question.
And I asked you a few weeks ago when you guys announced the outlines of the immigration executive orders, what is the message to people in Central America who are thinking of making this trip? You gave an answer then. I guess I'd ask you, is the administration, is the U.S. government doing enough to make clear to that part of the world it's not worth making this kind of a trip?
Well, we can always do more. And I think the challenge here, as you know, is that people are fleeing prosecution. They're fleeing very difficult economic circumstances and hardship. And there hasn't been enough time to do enough to impact the circumstances in the ground in a number of these communities. And obviously, as these unaccompanied kids come to the border, it's completely heartbreaking. We're not going to expel these kids. We want to process and get them into facilities as quickly as possible. But certainly, we're always looking for ways to do more, to communicate more effectively and clearly with communities in the region about why this is not the time to come. We need more time to put in place a humane and moral immigration system.
Parents should not be sending their kids north right now.
Absolutely not. This is not the time to come. We have not had the time to put in place an immigration system, an immigration policy. We don't have the processing we need at the border. Obviously, we're continuing to struggle with facilities to ensure that we're abiding by COVID protocols. So this is definitely not the time to come. Go ahead, Caitlin.
Definitely not. Don't come now. Because, again, we're the good guys, and there's nobody coming, but we've got to open up more facilities, and you know, if the people down there on the border are saying it's not much different, it's not much, but they don't know if there's nobody even coming across. Remember a couple of weeks ago, and she was almost arguing with reporters, saying, well, they're there. No, we told them not to come, but we're not going to turn them away. It's not just the unaccompanied minor. And what kind of parent sends their kids? You know why they send them? Because then they can get in. Oh, my child is there. Well, come on in. And again, none of this is disparaging the people who want to be here. It's just we cannot take all this right now. No country ever can. But that's subject for another show. But these poor unaccompanied minors that we just want to place in good homes and good places, and if it takes us a while, what can we do about it? There is a pandemic going on. We're doing the best we can. It's breaking our hearts. Yeah, because everybody needs to be in a nice home or a nice, safe place. But listen to this.
Immigration. The Biden administration is also reopening a detention center in Florida, formerly known as the Homestead Detention Facility. The administration plans to house migrant teens in that facility. Will that also be a temporary emergency center like the one we were discussing before?
I'd have to talk to the Department of Homeland Security about that. I would certainly send you to them to talk to them more specifically and directly about it.
It was also privately run before, which is part of the question here, is if whether or not the Biden administration plans to have it privately managed again, given the pledge by the president to close down privately run detention facilities.
Absolutely. I know you've asked this question before, and I'd be happy to connect you with someone from the Department of Homeland Security. They obviously oversee those facilities, so they're best prepared to answer any questions on it.
Could I ask one more on Florida? Go ahead. Florida.
All right, so they would know better because I don't. You could tell by the look on her face. Oh, God, this doesn't sound good. Because we're opening, we just want to move these poor unaccompanied minors. And has been shown before, ladies and gentlemen, in the teen category, they're not all teens. Some of them are very much adults. Some of them are gang members and everything else that the Trump administration worked very hard to get out. But they're opening up a teen facility, detention facility in Florida. How are they going to get them there? Bus on, fly on, whatever? Yeah, they're going to move them out. All right. The pretend president today is having a a Zoom meeting or whatever, with Prime Minister Trudeau of Canada. And so I'm sure we'll have some information on that. Where you'd want to be is in their private discussions on how they're pleasing their higher up bosses. Of course, Trudeau, we have not much to say about him, except he is a lying, fornicating, hater of the church and all things decent, who is a darling of those that rule for his hatred and work against the church and all things decent. Yeah, I know. I'm trying to be subtle here. Trudeau is a horrible person. And he's talking with a horrible person. And they're leading what used to be two of the greatest countries on the face of the earth. Since November 3, our country has taken great steps backwards. But it will rise again. Now, a question did come up. I have just a minute or two. A question did come up in the press conference about, hey, what are we going to do with Afghanistan? But see, you have to learn how to weigh the cost, ladies and gentlemen. President Donald J. Trump weighed the cost in human lives, cost to human life and casualty, and the overall expenditure versus looking at how long we've been there and how little results that we have. But no. See, some people weigh it like that. Others weigh it like this. What's the cost if we go out? Because we're pumping a lot of money into military complexes and industrial complexes. I don't want to sound conspiratorial, but it's true. We're shipping a lot of young men and women from the USA out and other allied groups. We're there and we're bankrupting but empowering, and it would cost, and the people that tell us what to do, this would cost them money. This would interrupt their world plans. So it would cost us more to pull out because they wouldn't be happy than it is to stay in, even though it's just American lives. It's just waste of time. It's just a waste of money. But that's the way they measure the cost, not by reality, but what their bosses say. And again, if you think Joe Biden is in charge of anything, then you really need help. You really, really, really need help. All right. Now then, part of what I said earlier, Hillary Clinton was supposed to have won, and this is really in the God formation segment of the show, and we forgot to put that up because I was watching the time, just trying to get everything in. But the God formation, why aren't we pulling out of Afghanistan? Because it would cost the rulers too much. Well, Danny, who are these rulers? There's a lot of them. And that's why President Trump wasn't liked. He wouldn't play the game on everything. I mean, you're going to play it sometimes without even knowing it, not picking on the man. But he wouldn't play the game. And so they wanted him out, even no matter what they had to do, because Hillary Clinton was supposed to win, and then all of this would have been done starting in 2017. But no, Donald J. Trump came in and put their agenda 4 years behind, even longer than that, but because, it takes a while to undo. That's why I've told you, it's easier to do than it is to undo. And so they're punishing us, ladies and gentlemen. They want to destroy us because we put them behind. We cost them money. We cost them planning. And this regime is going to do all that it can to destroy us, to put us where we should have been, because we're just here for their use. We're just fodder for their plans. Nothing more. They don't care about us. They don't care about... They just want fools to lead. Fools that, to rule under rulers, to rule a kingdom under a ruler, you have to agree to let the overall rulers rule. I know, rulers ruling and this and that, okay. Because if you don't, they got more power than you. And they're going to try everything to get you out, as we've seen for the last 4 years. Now, these people aren't going to try to get Biden out. God's working on that, trust me. And I say, I like your show till you get in this stuff. Well, we can only tell you what's happening. And see, sometimes rulers like Joe Biden, they get in, they think, I'm going to take over. Once I get there, I'll do what I want. It's because they're fools. And you know what? There's no way out of this except all the corruption be exposed, except all of the illegal activity be exposed, all of the lies, all of the deceit, because we're just buried so deep. Every day you should be praying for this country. Pray for one another. God bless America, and we will see you tomorrow. Hopefully, there won't be any kids in cages tomorrow. I mean, just this group of people just make you sick, don't they? God bless you. Have a good rest of your day. See you tomorrow on Countdown to Restoration. We're counting the days.